Have you ever felt an invisible heaviness around someone, a subtle tension that seems to linger in the air when they speak your name or meet your eyes? Sometimes it's not what is said that unsettles us, but what is silently present. Energy has a language, and though we can't always hear it, we can feel it. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, often reminded us that thought is the first form of reality, that what people truly hold in their hearts toward us echoes far beyond their words. The apple test, a quiet ritual rooted in this idea, is not about superstition. It's an invitation to awaken our intuition, that inner sense that tells us when something around us is not as pure as it seems. Imagine cutting an apple in half. Its flesh is white, fresh, alive. It's a symbol of the heart, pure, unguarded, open, but when it is exposed to air, it begins to darken. This natural transformation mirrors what happens in human relationships. When the energy surrounding us is harmonious, the apple's beauty lingers. But when jealousy, envy, or hidden resentment are present, the apple, like our inner peace, begins to stain more quickly, as if responding to a frequency that disturbs its natural state. Cayce taught that everything vibrates, and that vibration is the language of the soul. The apple in its silence becomes a mirror for that unseen conversation between energies. But let us pause here, because this test, as simple as it may seem, is not a tool of accusation. It's a mirror, not a weapon. The moment we use it to confirm our fears rather than to cultivate understanding, we step out of the realm of the spirit and into the shadow of judgment. The real lesson behind Cayce's teachings was always about vibration, that our inner state determines what we attract, what we perceive, and even what manifests in the matter around us. So when an apple darkens in the presence of someone, perhaps the first question should not be, "Who is wishing me harm?" but rather, "What vibration am I allowing to live within me?" Consider this. If someone's negativity can affect a simple fruit, imagine how deeply it can affect our thoughts, our emotions, our health. Yet Cayce insisted that the higher vibration, that of love, forgiveness, and prayer, always dissolves the lower one. Light, after all, does not fight darkness. It simply shines and the darkness vanishes. In that sense, the apple is not a test to expose others, but a reflection of our own ability to remain luminous, even in the presence of shadows. The faster the apple decays, the stronger our invitation to purify our own energy, to breathe forgiveness into the air, to cleanse our emotional atmosphere. Throughout history, ancient traditions have used symbols like fruit, water, and flame to reveal invisible truths. In Hebrew mysticism, for instance, water placed beside someone with heavy energy would grow turbid overnight. In Eastern thought, the lotus blooms only in pure water because its essence refuses to thrive in impurity. The apple belongs to this lineage of silent witnesses, instruments that remind us that what is spiritual is also physical, that vibration doesn't stay in the mind, it touches matter. So perhaps the question the apple test truly asks is, how aligned is my energy with love? How much of my world darkens because I forget to bless it with light? When we become aware of this delicate dialogue between energy and matter, something shifts within us. We begin to see that suspicion and fear cloud our perception, while awareness and compassion clarify it. If we perform the apple test and notice it browning quickly, we can take it not as a curse revealed, but as a whisper from the universe, a gentle reminder that cleansing must begin from within. Maybe it's not the person before us who needs to change, but the emotion we hold toward them. For if energy is reciprocal, then the healing of one heart can purify the space between two souls. And so, as we hold that apple and observe its transformation, what we are really witnessing is the dance between light and shadow within ourselves. The apple merely reveals what already exists in the unseen. The true test, then, is not in how long the fruit stays white, but in how long we can hold peace in our hearts despite the energy that surrounds us. Because when our inner light becomes constant, like the sun that warms both the flower and the thorn, even the energies that once wished us harm begin to dissolve into understanding. The apple may darken, yes, but our spirit remains radiant. What if, instead of fearing the energy of others, we learn to read it with compassion, the way a gardener observes the seasons of a tree? A gardener does not curse the winter for its barrenness. He understands that what appears lifeless is only preparing for renewal. In the same way, the negative energy we sometimes sense in others may not be malice, but pain. Often envy is not hatred, but sorrow disguised, the ache of someone who feels unseen, unworthy, or forgotten by life. When we sense that heaviness and instantly guard ourselves with fear, we close the very door through which healing could enter. Edgar Cayce often said that healing is sympathy in motion. To see beyond someone's shadow is the first act of spiritual sight. There is a subtle alchemy in observation without judgment. The apple test, when done with awareness, becomes an act of witnessing, not to condemn but to understand. If an apple placed between two people begins to darken faster than usual, it might not be because one wishes the other harm, but because their energies are out of harmony. It's the same reason certain instruments fall out of tune when played beside others. Resonance responds to what surrounds it. Cayce's readings taught that every soul emits a vibration based on its emotional state, and that vibration affects not only health, but also matter. So in truth, the apple is not reacting to a person's evil. It is simply resonating with the frequency present in the space. Let's imagine for a moment that our emotions are colors in a room. Love radiates golden light, forgiveness a soft pink, while resentment clouds the air in gray. When two people stand together, these colors blend. If one carries anger and the other carries peace, the air between them becomes turbulent, like a storm forming in still waters. The apple, sensitive, porous, alive, absorbs this turbulence and transforms. It browns because it can no longer sustain the purity of its own energy within that mixed atmosphere. The question then becomes not, who is the source of the darkness, but what light am I adding to this space? Cayce's philosophy always pointed towards self-responsibility, the idea that we attract and mirror the frequencies we hold. When he spoke of protecting oneself from harmful energy, he did not suggest building walls, he spoke of building light. Surround yourself in white, he said, not as defense but as remembrance, that no shadow can remain where the sun dwells. The apple test, seen through this lens, is a meditation. It teaches us to become conscious co-creators of the vibration we emit. If our thoughts are like seeds, then every moment we think with fear, we plant a garden of decay. But when we think with love, we restore harmony to all living things around us, even the simplest fruit. Science, too, is beginning to echo what mystics have always known. Experiments in cymatics reveal that sound waves shape matter. Molecules of water respond differently to words of love and words of anger. The Japanese researcher Masaru Emoto photographed crystals of frozen water after being exposed to prayers or insults. The ones touched by gratitude formed perfect symmetry, while those surrounded by hatred fractured into chaos. The apple test belongs to this same language of resonance. It is not proof of magic, but of interconnectedness. Every emotion, every thought, every word is a ripple across the fabric of creation. The apple, in its quiet stillness, simply records what we have already spoken into existence. And yet, the greatest secret lies not in detecting negativity, but in transforming it. When we observe the apple darken, we have two paths, fear or illumination. Fear sees only contamination and turns away. Illumination sees an opportunity to purify the field. Cayce's teachings invite us to respond to darkness, not with defense, but with blessing. Imagine holding the apple in your hands, closing your eyes and breathing light into it, not to cleanse the fruit, but to realign your heart. For as your vibration rises, so too does the harmony around you. You become, in that instant, a lighthouse, calm, unwavering, silently dispersing the fog that once seemed threatening. Every act of observation is a prayer in disguise. When we look at the apple, we are also looking at ourselves. When we see its light fade, we are witnessing our own doubts, our own fears reflected back. And when we choose to send it love instead of anxiety, something profound happens. We reclaim authorship of the invisible. The world outside no longer dictates our peace. Our peace begins to shape the world outside. That perhaps is the hidden lesson behind Cayce's mystical wisdom, that energy is not something we defend against, but something we learn to harmonize with. And as this awareness deepens, we begin to sense a quiet truth forming beneath all appearances, that even those who seem to wish us harm are at their core yearning for light. They have forgotten their own connection to the source. And sometimes, by staying radiant in their presence, we remind them of it. There comes a moment for every seeker when understanding must move from the mind into the heart. Knowing that energy is real is one thing. Living in harmony with it is another. The apple test, simple as it may seem, is a doorway to that deeper knowing. When we witness how something as small as a piece of fruit can absorb emotion, we begin to grasp the delicate nature of our own being. We too absorb. Every word, every thought, every silent tension between us and another leaves its imprint on the subtle field of our soul. And if the apple browns too fast, perhaps it's reminding us that we've been breathing in the energies of others without cleansing our own atmosphere, that it's time to exhale, to release what doesn't belong to us. Edgar Cayce believed that all disease begins as a disturbance in vibration. The body, he said, is a map of the spirit. When resentment lingers, it doesn't stay in the air. It settles into our organs, our muscles, our breath. And just like the apple exposed to corrosive energy, we too begin to wither from the inside out. The ancient mystics of many traditions understood this long before science found the words for it. In Ayurveda, anger is said to inflame the fire element. In Chinese medicine, grief weakens the lungs. In Christian mysticism, hatred is seen as a form of spiritual poison. The apple's decay is not a curse, but a teaching written in nature's handwriting. That energy is tangible, and the purity of what surrounds us begins with the purity within us. But how, then, do we remain pure in a world that constantly tests our light? Cayce's answer was never about avoidance. He urged souls not to hide from darkness, but to become instruments through which divine energy could flow. Do not resist evil, he once paraphrased the gospel. Transmute it. To transmute means to take something heavy and make it luminous. It is the art of spiritual alchemy. When someone projects envy or judgment toward us, the instinct is to recoil. Yet what if instead we silently bless them? What if, rather than building a wall, we let compassion be the filter through which their energy passes? Then their darkness cannot touch us, for it meets light on its way. Think of it as the sun touching water. The sun never fears the impurity of the river. It simply shines. And in shining it draws the water upward as vapor, lifting it toward the sky, transforming it into clouds, and eventually returning it to earth as rain. In the same way, when we hold light, we elevate the vibration of the energy sent toward us. It cannot remain dark, because our awareness turns it into something else. The apple test, when performed with that consciousness, stops being a ritual of detection and becomes a ritual of transmutation. It becomes a silent act of healing, a way to say to the universe, "Let this energy find peace through me." And isn't that the true purpose of every spiritual path? To be a channel, not a collector. To allow energy, both joy and sorrow, to move through us without staying trapped. When we trap energy, it decays, just like the fruit. When we let it flow, it becomes renewal. Every emotion, even the painful ones, carries wisdom in disguise. Envy teaches us about longing, anger about boundaries, sadness about love lost and love desired. The problem begins when we identify with the emotion instead of listening to it. The apple test, in its symbolic simplicity, teaches us to listen without attachment, to read energy without absorbing it. Cayce also spoke of the law of response, a truth echoed in every great scripture, that what we send out must return, not as punishment, but as a reminder. If we focus on the fear that someone may wish us harm, that fear becomes the magnet that pulls more harm into our field. But if we focus on light, if we bless even the possibility of negativity, we rewrite the vibration of that encounter. The apple might still brown, but our spirit remains untouchable, and in time even the person who once carried shadow begins to feel a shift. For light, when consistent, reforms everything it touches. So perhaps at the deepest level, the apple test is not about others at all. It is about us, about whether we can hold our center in the presence of mixed vibrations, whether we can see beyond appearances and choose love in the midst of uncertainty. Because to perceive darkness and not react with fear is the mark of one who has begun to awaken. To look upon decay and still believe in renewal is the heart of a mystic. The apple teaches us that decay itself is not the end, but a process of transformation. After all, when the apple falls to the earth and softens into the soil, it feeds the next seed. Even what seems spoiled serves the cycle of life. And so, when we finally understand the message behind the apple, we realize that what it shows us is not danger, but reflection. Every bruise, every shadow upon its flesh is a mirror of something asking to be seen, not outside, but within. Edgar Cayce never spoke of fear, he spoke of awareness. Awareness is not defense, it is awakening. It is the gentle art of walking through the world with eyes open, heart soft and energy steady. The apple is not a warning that others wish us harm. It is a reminder that our peace depends not on the purity of the air around us, but on the light we carry within. When that light remains clear, no external vibration can truly disturb it. Cayce often said that love is the highest frequency, the only force that cannot be corrupted. Love, in its purest form, is not emotion. It is state. It is the calm that stays when every illusion dissolves. To live in that vibration is to live as the apple before the world's gaze, unguarded yet unafraid. When we embody love, we become untouchable not because we resist darkness, but because we have transcended the need to label it. Darkness loses its meaning in the presence of constant light. The lesson of the apple, then, is not beware who surrounds you, but tend the orchard of your soul so that nothing external can spoil your harvest. Let us imagine that orchard for a moment, vast, silent, bathed in golden sunlight. Each tree is a relationship, each fruit an exchange of energy. Some apples ripen sweetly, others fall before their time, yet all serve a purpose. When one fruit bruises, it does not condemn the whole tree. It simply signals that attention, care, or pruning is needed. Our relationships are the same. If one begins to wither, we are called not to abandon it in fear, but to tend it with understanding. Perhaps the other person's shadow is simply a branch seeking light. Perhaps our compassion is the sunlight it has been missing. The mystics of every era agreed on this truth, that the way we see others determines the reality we experience. Jesus spoke of blessing those who curse. The Buddha spoke of compassion for those who harm. Rumi spoke of being the field beyond right and wrong. They all pointed to the same inner mastery, the ability to see beyond appearances. The apple test is a modern parable of that timeless principle. It reveals how easily we allow fear to dictate meaning, but fear is only ignorance in motion. When we replace it with curiosity, with love, with grace, we begin to read the signs of life differently. The apple does not become an omen, but a teacher, and perhaps that is its greatest beauty. It turns superstition into wisdom. It transforms what was once an act of anxiety into a moment of meditation. When you cut the apple and watch its flesh, you are also cutting into your own energy field, revealing the state of your inner world. Does it darken quickly because your thoughts are clouded, or does it stay radiant because your vibration is pure? Either way, it tells you something sacred. It gives you a chance to pause, breathe, and align again. The ritual, in its essence, is a pause, a sacred interruption in the rush of life that brings you back to the invisible dimension where all causes begin. From that space of awareness, everything changes. We stop fearing who wishes us harm, and we start understanding that harm cannot touch the one who has mastered inner harmony. The apple can decay, but the seed within remains alive. So long as we remember that, we will never be victims of another's vibration. We will simply be observers of its movement, witnesses of the divine play of energy that teaches us, again and again, how to choose love. For love is not fragile. It is the very substance of creation. To live in love is to live untouchable, not through walls, but through radiance. So the next time you perform the apple test, do it not with suspicion, but with reverence. Hold the fruit in your hands and bless it. Let it represent every relationship, every thought, every unseen current moving through your life. If it stays white, give thanks. If it darkens, give light. Either way, it has served its purpose just to awaken you. And when the experiment ends, when you discard the fruit and return to your day, remember, you are the true apple, always being tested by the energies of the world. Keep your heart open, your thoughts kind, and your vibration steady. That is the only protection you will ever need. Now, if this reflection touched you, if something within you felt recognized or renewed, share your own experience in the comments. How do you perceive the energies around you? What have you learned about love's ability to dissolve darkness? Subscribe, not for answers, but for companionship in this ongoing journey of awakening. Because the light we share multiplies, and together we become that steady glow in the fog, the faraway lighthouse guiding others back to their own calm shore.